Welcome back to Kenan Builds. You may have seen this car in the back of some of the videos. If you're new to the channel, this is my 1992 Unos Roadster. It's got a whole load of modifications. It's on air suspension, BBS wheels, and the roof box is probably the fairly obvious one. Every year I like to try and change the car where I can, make it better for every show season. One, so people aren't seeing the same car at the show every year, and for me it just gives some changes to the car so I never get bored of it, and for me it always seems to be getting better and better. And 2025 is no different. So for this show season, I am changing the color of the car slightly. It's not going to be a complete rewrap. This is currently wrapped in beige, and I'm going to be doing something sort of 90s JDM. What I've also got is a new body kit. So what we have here, the Canspo style body kit. First thing I'm going to look at is the bumper. It does need some work, but in order to fit a half bumper, there's only one thing you can do. And that is to simply take an angle grinder and cut it in half. So all I have to do, take out these side pieces here and cut the line similar to where you can see there all the way across, and get rid of the bottom section of this in order for us to start to mount the new half bumper. And that is the bottom half of the bumper now gone. But now we can start to mount the half bumper. You may be thinking, why didn't I take the whole bumper off first? But the reason for that was this bumper is quite flimsy when it's off the car. The splitter on there does kind of strengthen it up a bit. I thought it would be easier to cut it on the car, as it would give me a better sort of structure to hold on, because it is really flimsy when you take this bumper off. As you can see, it is just soft plastic. So now I can show you kind of how we're going to mount this onto the car. I'm not 100% sure exactly how we're going to do it yet, but I do know that this section here will sit in the gap there, and what I may do is add bolts on the end of there and the end of there. I want to try and make it look as clean as possible. So let's loosen off the rest of this bumper so I can kind of position the half bumper into place and see how it's starting to look. So I took a little bit of work. You wouldn't have seen everything in the time lapse, as it just took quite a while. All I was doing was sanding the join. I didn't want to take off too much, so I was sanding a little bit, putting it back on, trying it, sanding it a little bit, trying it. It did take some doing, but I haven't got anything holding this on whatsoever at the minute, and it is pretty much solid. I don't think I'm going to really need a lot to actually keep this bumper on and in place. So let me show you how it looks. So for this kit, the standard bumper there kind of sits into the actual kit. So my standard bumper will be on the inside of here, and then if we go around the other side, it is exactly the same. That is pretty solid. I don't know whether or not I'm gonna glue underneath here or just add 3 or 4 zip ties on there and wrap around the existing bumper. The middle there is pretty much perfect. Obviously I've got to do a bit of body work and take some of the imperfections out, but it is pretty much there. Just maybe a bit of fiberglass filler, sand it down, and then we're ready to wrap. And just like that, the front bumper, or the half bumper, is now mounted. Very, very impressed with the fitment. It takes a little bit of getting used to and figuring out. All of the body gaps, like the front bumper there, still got to mess with that, but again, this is all got to come back off to be rewrapped and whatever we do, and have all the body work done. But next, hopefully the car has charged enough for me to start it so I can get some air in the bags and we can start to work on the side skirts. So now that the car's in the air, we can start to look at the side skirts. So these are the Canspo side skirts. They're pretty straightforward to mount. I think it's just going to be 1 bolt on the front, maybe add 2 or 3, see how many on the back. I don't think we have to bolt anything on the bottom, but I may add some in just in case, or I may just like silicone it into place on the bottom to make it extra sturdy. But in order for us to fit these, I have got the sort of normal standard GV style side skirts, and they're in the way, so I got to try and get them off. I think they're going to be a bit of a nightmare because the bolts might be quite rusted, but let's try and get them off first. Spent a bit of time on the side skirt. It was a little bit more hard work than I thought, but I have fitted the side skirts now. all I've got is one bolt this end, which uses the factory OEM bolt on the wing, and on the rear I'm using 3 bolts there. And what I'll probably do is either add some more riv nuts or something underneath. The trouble is they didn't work before, so I may just use some self tappers to just kind of keep the underside nice and sturdy, so basically put them underneath the sills. I probably will end up replacing the sills on this. They're starting to get a bit rusty, so I'm not too worried about drilling holes in them for now. I'd imagine next winter I'm probably going to have to look at replacing the sills on the car. Rust is kind of catching up with it now. That is kind of what to expect with a 90s Japanese car, but for now it does look really good. So just spent a good few hours prepping the bumper and the 2 side skirts. As you can see, there were some imperfections. There's a lot of little holes which I had to fill in, just sort of general imperfections of fiberglass, so had to sort that out. But what I want to do next now, before we wrap the panels, as they are all ready to be wrapped, I just want to get the car on a flat surface, get everything kind of mocked up and air the car out, because I want to see how close this kit sits to the floor when the car is sat at its very lowest. As if it's slightly off the floor, I may be able to add a sort of like universal sort of splitter, or I may make my own sort of flat racing style splitter to go on the bottom, just to get it fully sat on the floor. Fingers crossed this kit sits on the floor anyway, but with the car on the ramp I can't really air it out because of the middle there, so I just need to get it out onto the flat surface and bolt the things on and see how it looks. And just as expected, the bumper and the side skirts aren't quite sitting on the floor. However, we have got a kind of a solution. The floor isn't completely level, as you can see, it's a lot closer there than it is further out here. But what the plan is, just represented with this MDF wood here, is if I have a similar sort of plastic or rubber, which is this thick as the wood there, and created my own little side skirt, which essentially will come out and just stick out maybe an inch or so from the edge of the side skirt. The same on the front bumper. All that there would be left then is about this much gap between the side skirt and the floor, which is pretty good. I can start to wrap the panels, as making that sort of side skirt and front splitter on the bottom of each of the pieces, it's not really going to cause any damage. All I have to do is line them up, trace a line, and then cut the material out and wrap the sort of extension piece that we maybe will call it. But I'm not going to show you much of the wrapping. If you want to see more wrapping or how we sort of get that done, then let us know. Maybe we can do this exclusive video on that. So I've spent a good few days and hours worth of work prepping all of the side skirts, the new front bumper, and I have wrapped all of the pieces ready to go onto the car. So I've wrapped the front bumper, the 2 side skirts, the 2 mud flaps, and the rear bumper. As you would have seen, the kit isn't actually sitting on the floor when I air out the car, and that is why I have this wood. So this wood is what I'm going to be using to make universal splitters and side skirts. You're probably watching this clip in black and white because I don't want to quite show you the colour yet that we've gone for, so make sure you stay tuned to see how it looks at the end and the colour we've decided to go for. But without further ado, let's get all of this on the table and start making some universal side skirts and splitters to go on the new kit. So that's the first piece roughly made, so let me show you how it looks. We don't want a massive overhang, so that's about all we got. That might be about to the inside 1.5 inches, but from above you can probably see about 1 inch, maybe 1.25 inches. But this follows the shape of the side skirt perfectly, as it does come out towards the back. You may see that slightly there, that the side skirt actually comes away, so that fits pretty good. What I've also done as well is I've left a little bit at the back there because I want to be able to add some self tappers through the bottom of the side skirt up into the sills of the car, just to add some more bolts, as there are 3 this end and 1 that end, but add in some more self tappers to the side skirt will just kind of make it a little bit secure. So what I'm going to do now is create another one of this. You don't want to see that again, but what I will do and show you is how we're going to make the front bumper. Very similar process, just going to use the insulation tape as a guide to get that inch sort of gap between the front bumper and the end of the extension. And just like that, with a similar principle to the first side skirt, we have now finished the front bumper, so let me show you a bit closer up. So as you can see, it's not madly aggressive. I have also got to cut the inside. I've made the very inside part a bit wider. That section of the bumper there isn't very wide, so I widened the wood just because that makes it a little bit thicker and less likely to get snapped. These are being wrapped, as I said, in the same colour as the bumper. You're not going to see it yet, so make sure you stay tuned to see the colour at the end. But they are really taking shape. So after a couple of weeks worth now, we have everything wrapped entirely. The pieces, the side skirts, I decided to redo them in a plastic. As you would have previously seen, I was doing them in wood, but trying to wrap it just really didn't work. So I decided to go down the route of making them out of plastic. I do have a material, it's about 10mm thick. It's a bit thinner than the wood, unfortunately, but it does make the bumper and that sit lower than previously. So what we have to do now is get all of this assembled onto the car. I have got the car running, as you would hear, so what I'm going to do first is assemble all of these pieces, get things like the mud flaps onto the bumpers, get all of the side skirt extension pieces onto the actual side skirts, as we can't mount them on the car, and then once that's all done we can mount the front bumper, rear bumper and 2 side skirts. So this is not quite how I expected to finish the video. We did end up making it to Belgium and the Hall of Fame show. What an amazing trip it was. The car was phenomenal, made it there in one piece, but you still haven't seen the car finished yet. So without further ado, this is how it came out. But there we have it. I hope you enjoy the look. If there's anything you think we can do to improve the look, then please feel free to drop us in the comments. We also have our K-Truck, which is currently undergoing a lot of work. We've recently fitted our Honda Fireblade motorbike engine, so there's a lot going on with that. If you want to see all of the activities going on the channel, make sure to go and drop a subscribe, and we will catch you in the next one.